The Galactic Confederation's message arrived on a bright, cloudless morning, delivered through a beam of light that seemed to split the sky. A shimmering holographic figure materialized above the United Nations building, its voice resonating in every language on Earth. The being introduced itself as Ambassador Gomer of the Zarnok Empire, a leading member of the Confederation. Its tone was calm, authoritative, and thinly veiled with condescension as it declared Earth's official introduction to the greater galactic community. From the command center beneath the Pentagon, General Tom Simpson observed the spectacle. The grizzled veteran of Earth's last global war, Simpson was a man of quiet resolve. His broad shoulders carried the weight of every soldier he had ever commanded, and the deep lines etched across his face bore witness to the years of conflict that had shaped him. For now he listened, his steel-blue eyes narrowing as Gomer's words played across screens. "The Confederation extends a hand of guidance," Gomer proclaimed. "It is our duty to bring peace and order to the lesser worlds. In return, Earth shall pledge its loyalty, its resources, and its cooperation." The room around Simpson buzzed with the murmurs of analysts and advisors, but he silenced them with a single gesture. "Record everything," he ordered, his voice low and measured. "This isn't a welcome party. It's an ultimatum." Simpson's suspicions were confirmed later, that day when Gomer's delegation descended to Earth. The Zarnok envoy arrived in a gleaming, angular spacecraft, its design starkly alien against the rolling Virginia hills. The ship landed near a secure military base, and a delegation of Earth's finest awaited them, led by Simpson himself. Gomer emerged with a group of similarly imposing figures, their elongated forms encased in metallic exoskeletons. The ambassador's pale, iridescent skin glowed faintly under the Earth's sun, his dark eyes scanning the human delegation with an air of disdain. Simpson stepped forward, his posture straight and unwavering, offering a hand in greeting. Gomer ignored the gesture, instead speaking in a voice that seemed to hum with latent energy. "General Simpson, I have studied your world's history. Your people are primitive, yet strangely obsessed with peace." Simpson's jaw tightened, but he maintained his composure. "We value peace, Ambassador, but don't mistake that for weakness." Gomer's lipless mouth curved into what might have been a smirk. "Of course, peace is a noble ideal, until it becomes inconvenient. The Confederation values order above all. You will find that resistance, while possible, is rarely beneficial." The meeting proceeded with strained civility. Gomer laid out the Confederation's terms. Humanity would submit to its governance, paying tribute in the form of natural resources and advanced technological labor. In return, Earth would gain protection and limited access to the Confederation's knowledge. Simpson's response was unequivocal. "Earth doesn't submit. Not to anyone. If this is your idea of peace, we'll pass." The ambassador's eyes narrowed. "I suggest you reconsider, General. Peaceful cooperation is preferable. But should you choose conflict, know that it will end poorly for you." The two locked eyes, the weight of the moment pressing on everyone present. Finally, Gomer turned and left, his delegation retreating to their ship. Simpson watched them go, a storm brewing behind his calm exterior. That evening, Simpson convened a meeting with Earth's top leaders. The room was filled with military commanders, scientists, and diplomats. Maps of the galaxy, data on Zarnok technology, and fragments of intercepted communications covered every surface. "This isn't diplomacy," Simpson began, addressing the room with his commanding presence. "It's coercion. They think we're weak. They think we'll roll over and do as we're told because they've decided we're not worth their time. But they don't understand us." "What do you propose, General?" asked Colonel David Warner, Simpson's trusted second-in-command. A pragmatic strategist with a sharp mind, Warner often played devil's advocate to Simpson's instincts. "For now, we play along," Simpson replied. "But we prepare. If they push, we push back." Not everyone was convinced. "If we escalate, they'll crush us," one of the diplomats warned. "Their technology is centuries ahead of ours." Simpson fixed the man with a steady gaze. "They may have better tech, but they've underestimated the human spirit. We don't give up, and we sure as hell don't submit." The room fell silent, the weight of Simpson's words settling over the gathered leaders. Despite the enormity of the challenge ahead, a quiet resolve began to spread. Earth would not go quietly into submission. Days turned into weeks as humanity prepared for the inevitable. Scientists worked tirelessly to study the fragments of alien technology, while engineers adapted Earth's defenses for the new threat. Across the globe, military bases buzzed with activity as soldiers trained in tactics designed to counter alien advantages. Civilians volunteered in droves, their determination fueled by the desire to protect their home. Gomer, meanwhile, continued to dismiss humanity as insignificant. To him, Earth was a minor inconvenience, an unruly child that would soon be brought to heel. Yet he couldn't shake a nagging unease. Humans were unlike any species he had encountered before, unpredictable, stubborn, and unyielding in their beliefs. Still, he dismissed these thoughts, confident in the Confederation's dominance. That confidence led to the first miscalculation. Under the guise of a diplomatic oversight, Zarnak forces accidentally bombed a small Earth colony on Mars. Hundreds of civilians and military personnel were killed, among them Captain Eric Simpson, Tom's younger brother. The news hit Earth like a thunderclap. Protests erupted worldwide, grief and rage intertwining in a volatile mix. In a televised address, Tom Simpson stood before the world, his usually stoic demeanor cracking under the weight of personal loss. "They think they can break us," he said, his voice steady but charged with emotion. "They think our peace is a weakness. But let me make this clear. We are not weak. We are patient. And now, they've tested that patience." The broadcast electrified humanity. Recruitment surged as people from all walks of life stepped forward to defend their world. Factories retooled for wartime production, and scientists pushed the boundaries of human innovation. The message was clear. Earth would not submit. Gomer, observing from his orbital station, felt a flicker of unease as he watched the broadcast. For the first time, he wondered if he had underestimated the so-called peaceful humans. But he dismissed the thought. In his eyes, the outcome was inevitable. Tom Simpson stood in the command center, watching the skies. The time for diplomacy was over. The bombing of the Mars colony shattered any illusions of peace. Across Earth, the aftermath of the Zarnak attack ignited a fire that would not be extinguished. Memorials sprang up in cities around the globe, their somber gatherings uniting humanity in grief and fury. General Tom Simpson stood at the forefront, his figure a symbol of resilience. He had lost his brother, Captain Eric Simpson, in the attack, a loss that fueled his resolve like molten steel forged in fire. The day after the bombing, Simpson addressed the United Earth Defense Force in a speech that would be remembered for generations. His voice was steady, yet each word carried the weight of conviction. "The Zarnak thought they could silence us with violence," he began, his gaze sweeping over the ranks of soldiers, engineers, and scientists gathered before him. "But they don't understand us. We're not a people who crumble under pressure. We endure, we adapt, and when pushed too far, we fight back." The soldiers erupted into cheers, their morale bolstered by Simpson's unshakable confidence. Among them was Lieutenant James Vargas, a young officer who had idolized Eric Simpson and now carried the burden of avenging his mentor. Vargas clenched his fists, his jaw tight with determination. For Eric, he murmured under his breath, a sentiment shared by countless others. Behind the scenes, preparations for retaliation moved at a relentless pace. In secret facilities hidden beneath mountain ranges and deep within the Arctic tundra, scientists and engineers worked day and night to reverse engineer fragments of Zarnak technology salvaged from the Mars colony. Dr. Elias Monroe, the lead scientist on the project, was a brilliant but abrasive man whose mind never rested. He spoke in clipped sentences, his words as sharp as the scalpel he once wielded as a surgeon. "We're not just playing catch-up here, Monroe said during a briefing with Simpson and his staff. "We're surpassing them. Their arrogance left gaps in their designs. Flaws we can exploit. Give me a few more weeks, and we'll have weapons they won't see coming." Simpson nodded, his expression grim but approving. "You have 2 weeks. Make them count." In the midst of this frenetic activity, Ambassador Gomer observed from the orbiting Zarnak command vessel, smug in his belief that humanity's retaliation would amount to little more than a desperate last stand. His advisors echoed his confidence, their voices resonating in the sterile metallic halls of the ship. "Humans are emotional creatures," one advisor sneered. "They lash out when wounded, but their bark is far worse than their bite." Gomer smiled, a thin, joyless expression. "Let them try. It will only hasten their submission." What Gomer failed to account for was the sheer depth of human ingenuity and resolve. Tom Simpson and his team weren't just preparing for war. They were preparing for survival. Each battle plan, each technological advancement, was a testament to humanity's refusal to be extinguished. As the 2-week deadline approached, Simpson gathered his senior officers in the war room, a cavernous space filled with holographic maps and real-time data feeds. Colonel David Warner, his closest confidant, stood beside him. Warner was a tactical genius, his mind a constant churn of probabilities and countermeasures. "Our scouts have identified a Zarnak outpost on the edge of the solar system," Warner reported. "It's lightly guarded but serves as a supply hub for their fleet. If we hit it, we'll cripple their logistics and send a message they won't ignore." Simpson's lips pressed into a thin line. "It's a gamble, but one we have to take. Assemble the strike team. We move at dawn." The following day, the assault began. The human fleet, a patchwork of retrofitted ships and experimental fighters, launched from Earth's surface with grim determination. Leading the charge was the UEDF flagship Hawk, its captain, Admiral Henry Stokes, a grizzled veteran who had seen more battles than he cared to remember. The outpost was caught off guard. Zarnak ships scrambled to respond, their sleek designs cutting through the void, but they were unprepared for the ferocity of the human assault. The Hawk spearheaded the attack, its weapon systems enhanced with the very technology the Zarnak had once believed unassailable. Simpson watched the battle unfold from the command center, his hands clasped behind his back. Reports came in rapid succession, each one painting a picture of hard-fought progress. Vargas led a boarding party onto the outpost, his squad moving with precision and lethal efficiency. "Lieutenant Vargas, status report," Simpson barked over the comms. "We've breached the central command room, sir," Vargas replied, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "Their defenses are crumbling." "Good. Finish the job." The battle was brutal but swift. By the time the dust settled, the outpost was in human hands, its resources and data now at Earth's disposal. The victory came at a cost. Lives lost, ships damaged, but it was a victory nonetheless. Simpson stood in the aftermath, surveying the battered but triumphant fleet as it returned to Earth. The sense of accomplishment was tempered by the knowledge that this was only the beginning. The Zarnak would retaliate, and when they did, humanity would have to be ready. On the Zarnak command vessel, Gomer received the news of the outpost's fall with cold fury. For the first time, doubt crept into his mind, a small crack in his facade of superiority. These humans were not the cowed, docile creatures he had expected. They were something else entirely, something dangerous. Gomer's advisors scrambled to offer explanations, but he silenced them with a single, commanding gesture. "They've made their choice," he said, his voice low and menacing. "Now we will make ours. Prepare the fleet. Back on Earth." Simpson met with Warner and Monroe in the dimly lit war room. The mood was somber despite their success. "They'll hit us back, and harder than ever," Warner warned. Simpson nodded. "Let them. We'll be ready." In the quiet that followed, Simpson gazed at the holographic map of the solar system, his mind racing with the possibilities. This was no longer a matter of defense or retaliation. This was a war for survival, and humanity would not back down. As the meeting ended, Simpson lingered in the room, staring into the void beyond the walls. He thought of Eric, of the countless lives already lost, and of the millions who now looked to him for leadership. He would not fail them. He could not fail them. The next phase of the war was coming, and when it did, humanity would meet it with all the strength and fury they could muster. The Zarnok fleet came in force as predicted. It was an armada of shimmering vessels, each one bristling with weaponry and technological prowess that had conquered countless worlds. Their formation darkened the skies above Earth's orbit, a silent declaration of dominance. To them, this was another routine show of might, a reminder to humanity of its place in the cosmic hierarchy. But what greeted the Zarnok was not submission. General Tom Simpson stood on the bridge of the Hawk, his face carved in unyielding determination. Every screen in the command center displayed the incoming fleet, yet there was no panic in the air. The crew worked with mechanical precision, their fear tempered by their faith in Simpson's leadership and their resolve to defend their home. "Are the defenses ready?" Simpson asked, his voice even. Colonel David Warner nodded, his tone clipped. "All stations report green, General. Orbital platforms armed. Surface-to-space batteries primed. The fleet is in position." Simpson turned to Dr. Elias Monroe, who had insisted on observing the battle firsthand. Monroe's usual caustic demeanor was tempered by the gravity of the moment. "The new systems?" Simpson prompted. Monroe smirked, though his eyes betrayed the weight of responsibility. "Operational and lethal. They'll never see it coming." The Zarnok hailed the Hawk, their image shimmering onto the main display. Ambassador Gomer appeared, his expression a mix of contempt and confidence. "General Simpson," Gomer began, his voice dripping with disdain, "this is your final chance. Surrender now, and your people may yet live as subjects of the Empire. Resist, and your extinction will be swift." Simpson stepped forward, his face a mask of defiance. "Ambassador, you misunderstand us. We don't surrender. And if you think your fleet will break us, you're gravely mistaken." Gomer's expression darkened. "So be it. Your blood will stain the stars." The transmission ended abruptly, and the Zarnok ships began their advance. On Simpson's order, the battle commenced. The opening salvos from the orbital platforms lit up the void, brilliant streaks of plasma and railgun slugs hurtling toward the enemy fleet. The Zarnok retaliated with devastating precision, their beams slicing through space to strike Earth's defenses. Explosions flared like distant fireworks, but the human forces held their ground. In the chaos, Lieutenant James Vargas commanded a squadron of fighter pilots, their ships weaving through the fray with practiced agility. "Stay tight. Keep your targets marked," Vargas ordered, his voice steady despite the carnage around him. "Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth. We're fighting for everyone we've lost." His squadron responded with a unified acknowledgement, their determination palpable. Vargas led them in daring runs against the Zarnok capital ships, exploiting weaknesses identified by Monroe's team. Each strike was a calculated risk, but the results were undeniable. Zarnok vessels began to falter. Meanwhile, Monroe's secret weapon was unleashed. Hidden within Earth's orbital debris field were cloaked drones equipped with experimental EMP disruptors. With a single command, they activated, their pulses cascading through the Zarnok fleet. Ships flickered and faltered, their advanced systems rendered momentarily inert. "Now's our chance," Simpson barked. Seizing the moment, the Hawk surged forward, its weapons tearing through disabled Zarnok ships with ruthless efficiency. Warner coordinated the fleet with surgical precision, ensuring no opening was left unexploited. The tide began to turn, but the Zarnok were not so easily defeated. Regaining their systems, they pressed their attack with renewed ferocity. One of their capital ships unleashed a devastating barrage, striking the Hawk and sending it reeling. Alarms blared as the bridge shook violently. "Damage report," Simpson demanded, gripping the edge of a console for support. "Shield generators are failing," an officer replied. "Hull integrity compromised on decks 3 and 4. Simpson's mind raced. Retreat was not an option, but the Hawk couldn't sustain much more punishment. "We need a counter," Warner urged, his voice strained but composed. Simpson turned to Monroe, who was already typing furiously on a console. "Doctor?" Monroe glanced up, his smirk returning despite the dire circumstances. "I didn't come here to watch us lose. Divert power to the auxiliary disruptors. I can amplify the output. Might just fry their flagship's core." Simpson nodded. "Do it." As the Hawk absorbed another volley, Monroe's modified disruptors activated. A surge of energy rippled outward, targeting the Zarnok flagship at the heart of their formation. The result was catastrophic. The massive vessel shuddered, its core destabilizing before erupting in a blinding explosion that tore through nearby ships. The human forces rallied, their morale bolstered by the destruction of the enemy flagship. Vargas and his squadron pressed their advantage, carving through the disoriented Zarnok fleet. The orbital platforms redoubled their efforts, their firepower relentless. On the Zarnok command vessel, Gomer watched in stunned silence as his fleet disintegrated. For the first time, he felt the gnawing edge of fear. These humans were not just surviving, they were winning. "Ambassador," one of his advisors began, his voice trembling, "we must retreat." Gomer clenched his fists, his pride warring with the stark reality before him. "Signal the withdrawal," he growled, the words tasting like ash. As the remaining Zarnok ships limped away, the humans refrained from pursuing. They had won the battle. But Simpson knew the war was far from over. The bridge of the Hawk erupted in cheers, but Simpson held up a hand, silencing them. "This isn't the end," he said, his voice cutting through the momentary jubilation. "It's just the beginning. They'll be back, and we need to be ready." Monroe approached, his usual sarcasm tempered by respect. "Not bad for a bunch of primitive creatures, huh?" Simpson allowed himself a faint smile. "Not bad at all." As the human fleet regrouped, the realization of what they had achieved began to sink in. Against all odds, they had faced the might of the Zarnok Empire and emerged victorious. The cost had been high, but their resolve had carried them through. In the days that followed, the victory became a rallying point for humanity. Across Earth, monuments were erected to honor the fallen, their names etched into history. And among the stars, the message was clear. Humanity might seek peace, but when pushed too far, they would unleash a wrath no force could withstand. For General Tom Simpson, the battle had solidified his belief in humanity's strength. He knew the Zarnok would return, but he also knew they would be ready. Together, they would face whatever came next, their determination unshakable and their resolve unbreakable. As Simpson stood on the bridge, watching the stars through the viewport, he allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. The war was far from over, but for now, they had proven one undeniable truth. Humanity would not be conquered. The days following the battle brought an eerie calm to Earth, a stillness that felt almost unnatural after the storm of war. The Zarnok fleet had been driven back, their ships reduced to scattered debris across the heavens. The victory had come at a cost, yet it was a moment that would echo throughout history, a moment where humanity had proven it could not only endure but triumph against impossible odds. General Tom Simpson walked through the halls of the United Earth Defense Command, his steps measured, his face etched with exhaustion. The facility buzzed with activity. Engineers repairing damaged systems, analysts reviewing battle data, and diplomats coordinating with Earth's fledgling allies across the stars. But amid the hustle, a sense of unity bound them all together. They had faced annihilation and emerged stronger for it. In the main conference room, a council of Earth's leaders awaited Simpson. The room's large central table bore holographic displays of the battlefield, highlighting the devastation humanity had inflicted on the Zarnok. Simpson took his seat, flanked by Colonel David Warner and Dr. Elias Monroe. President Adrian Stone, a man whose calm demeanor had steadied the planet during the crisis, leaned forward. "General Simpson, you've done the impossible. But now we must consider what comes next." The Zarnak will not forget this defeat. They'll return, Simpson said simply. But not immediately. They underestimated us. And that mistake will force them to reassess their strategies. We've bought ourselves time. How we use it will determine whether humanity survives the next war. Warner nodded, his expression grim. We can't rely on just holding the line again. We need to take the fight to them. Cripple their ability to wage war before they strike again. Monroe leaned back in his chair, a faint smirk playing on his lips. And let me guess, you're hoping I have a miracle tucked up my sleeves. Simpson glanced at him. We'll need more than miracles. We'll need innovation. You've already proven what we can achieve when we push the limits. Keep pushing. The conversation shifted to plans for reinforcing Earth's defenses and expanding humanity's military capabilities. Satellites armed with advanced weaponry, new shipyards to build warships, and research programs to develop technologies to rival the Zarnoks. But as the discussions unfolded, a new question emerged. What role would humanity play in the galaxy now that it had revealed its strength? Simpson voiced a question that hung in the air. If we survive the Zarnoks' retaliation, what then? Do we remain a defensive force, or do we take a stand for something greater? President Stone regarded him carefully. Are you suggesting we position ourselves as a protector of the oppressed? Simpson's gaze was steady. The Zarnok Empire doesn't just threaten us. Their tyranny spans countless worlds, subjugating species that can't fight back. We've shown that they're not invincible. We could inspire others to rise. Monroe arched an eyebrow. You're talking about turning humanity into a symbol, a beacon for the galaxy. That's a lot of weight to carry. It's not about symbolism, Simpson replied. It's about purpose. If we don't stand for something, we'll be fighting alone when the Zarnok return. But if we show the galaxy that resistance is possible, we won't have to face them alone. The room fell silent as the leaders considered his words. The idea was ambitious, risky, but it resonated. Humanity had fought for its survival, and in doing so, had glimpsed the potential for something far greater. The conversation turned to diplomacy, the need to reach out to other species oppressed by the Zarnok. Alliances would be critical, not just for military strength, but for the exchange of knowledge and resources. Simpson knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, but it was a road worth taking. Later that evening, Simpson stood on the observation deck of the Hawk, looking out at the stars. The debris of the Zarnok fleet still lingered in orbit, a stark reminder of the battle they had won. But his thoughts were already on the battles yet to come. Colonel Warner joined him, his usual stoicism softened by the moment. Do you really think we can do it? Become more than just survivors? Simpson's gaze didn't waver. We don't have a choice. If we don't rise to meet this challenge, the next one will destroy us. And if we can inspire others along the way, all the better. Warner nodded, his respect for Simpson evident. Then I guess we'd better get to work. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Messages were sent to alien species rumored to harbor resentment toward the Zarnok, offering support and solidarity. Scientists worked tirelessly to reverse engineer Zarnok technology salvaged from the battlefield, unlocking secrets that could give humanity an edge. Training programs for Earth's soldiers intensified, preparing them for the inevitable return of their enemy. Amid the preparations, a broadcast was sent from Earth to the galaxy at large. President Stone addressed the stars, his words carefully chosen to convey both strength and hope. We are humanity, he declared. We sought peace, but when pushed, we fought for our survival. To those who live under the shadow of tyranny, know this. The Zarnok Empire is not invincible. Resistance is possible. And together, we can forge a galaxy where no one lives in fear. The broadcast sparked ripples across the stars. On distant worlds, whispers of rebellion grew louder. Some dismissed Earth's message as bravado, but others saw it as a call to action. The seeds of change had been planted. As humanity prepared for the future, Simpson found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought them to this point. He thought of the sacrifices made, the lives lost, and the indomitable spirit that had carried them through. For all their flaws, humanity had shown that it could rise to any challenge, adapt to any threat. The Zarnok would return, that much was certain, but they would not find the same humanity they had sought to crush. Earth was no longer just a world clinging to survival. It was the spark of a movement, the beginning of something greater. And as Simpson stood on the bridge of the Hawk, watching the stars with a renewed sense of purpose, he knew one thing for sure. Humanity's story was just beginning.